Hey there, welcome to Allison Creatives. I'm Ashley.
I'm Jackie.
Welcome to this video.
Yeah. We have,
We are going to talk a little bit about just like Pisces season, what's going to be coming up and shaking. We move into this Pisces season on the 18th of February, coming right up in this real time anyway, whenever you catch this. Followed by Mars then going direct on the 23rd. That is just going to give us more momentum moving forward through Cancer here. You know, we went through that new synodic cycle in January, and then we went retrograde. And so we've been backtracking all through Cancer. Now we're going to go forward and get to move through any of those things that you felt, or if you felt held back from being able to make decisions, or if you felt like you were kind of hunkering down in some emotional stagnation to be able to move forward towards what you desire, or maybe it was just a pause to figure out what it was that you desired also, but we'll be moving forward there. That's going to play into that new moon also. And then the 25th, we Mercury and Saturn go into conjunction in Pisces, and that could be interesting. I feel like I think there's like a couple different routes we could go there personally. Mercury being how we think and how we communicate, right? And meeting up with Saturn in Pisces, Saturn already being in Pisces is tricky because we're trying to find foundations in realms that we can't actually see, where Saturn is like this material kind, like we're building the structures, we can see it, touch it, we're building and growing something, right? Or reworking something, where in Pisces is kind of the space beyond that boundary of being able to see, right? And so being able to comprehend that on an analytical level, so maybe starting to be challenged with ideas that have maybe left you feeling a little boxed in, maybe this is where our mind just opens up a little bit more to different ideas, different concepts, especially to do with the universe, spirituality, kind of these realms that seem a little bit hidden from us, or seem skewed, or like there's not a lot of information there for us. I think that we're really going to start to see some heightened information regarding that really feel anchored. Like there's a resonance there. There's something that makes sense there for you, even if you don't understand it. And that rolls us right into the new moon on the 27th. And we have 5 planets plus the North Node in Pisces at this new moon. And that feels like a lot.
I don't even know how to feel.
Yeah. That's even a good description. I'm like, I just actually don't know how to feel, so maybe we'll just disassociate and not feel. That's perfect. But this really so we've got Saturn, Neptune, Mercury, the Sun, and the Moon, and the North Node, okay? And so with all of this energy here, just really feels like we're trying to work through on all of these different systems to recognize our sensitivity, that there are different realms, different layers, and different fields of vision for our reality. There's different perspectives to be had. And I mean, so Mercury, the Sun, and Moon moving through our mind, our hearts, and our stomach right? We know from body talk
Yeah.
that these are
Brain centers.
Brain centers, you know. So understanding these concepts and starting to maybe heighten our senses into some of these sensitivities going on around us, you know. And Saturn and Neptune, you know, maybe trying to compute and allowing that information to come in, taking off the rose-colored glasses, or maybe being able to put on a set of glasses that really allow this, you know, the prism of the vastness of not only ourselves but the world, the beyond Earth, you know, and what that could looks like and how that impacts us on such a deep level, and how avoiding those sensitivities has pushed us in directions to be controlled, has pushed us in directions to feel like we need to disassociate. This reminds me of, you know, Pisces is often intertwined or can be given examples of in mythology of the sirens that you hear about in the ocean, right? That these are like mermaids or mythical creatures that sing these really beautiful enchanting songs, and sailors jump off and drown, or they are taken off course, right? And so I feel like the siren is like this fantasy, these fantasies of what we desire, really. Like it's like bringing forth the desire, right, that lives inside of us. We all have a desire to move towards something, always. And when when that desire comes up, all of a sudden it's like we want to take action, right? It's like, oh, I want that, right? You know, and I feel like we'll talk about Mars here, right? Mars going direct, it's in Cancer. It's also trining this new moon, of like maybe considering how we feel about these desires. What does this invoke in us? And like, what kind of expression is trying to come out of it? And how do we move forward with discernment? You know, we know from history that jumping up, following this beautiful song here, I feels like Neptune, right? Like this beautiful song that feels so enchanting and drawing, like I could really come alive in that, you know. But we know from history that we just drowned, or we go off course and then we feel like we're lost, right? And so how do we use Saturn there with that discernment, and Mars there to really kind of hone in on the emotional level of like, okay, this is what I desire, but how can I practically go about planting the seeds for these desires to grow? Because I don't want to drown them, right? I don't want to drown them. And I don't want to, you know, I want to incorporate this mysticism, and I want to incorporate this feeling that this song promotes inside of me, you know. And so how do I also kind of engage that sensitivity and push that into this seed to be able to let that desire grow? That's what this like whole thing kind of feels like, amongst some other things. But that analogy just kind of like came through, so I just had to let it kind of come.
Yeah. Love it.
Some of this is about kind of quieting down the mind. The mind likes to go in lots of different directions, and likes to fantasize, right? And although I think that there are a lot of creative things that come with our imagination and stuff, we also have to have boundaries around that, of like what also can we anchor in into these forms that we've been given in this space and time, right? And really kind of tuning into the subtle energies around you. What is real? What's real to you? And are you starting to rework some of the ideas that you have about what is real, or what you believed is real, right? Mm-hmm. Did you have something you want to jump in?
No.
Okay. And this goes as far as like even kind of your spiritual understandings. I feel like uh, this is a time, if you haven't already started to feel drawn to certain people, certain practices, certain understandings, certain teachings, I feel like you're going to start feeling really resonant with certain things. And rather than kind of listening to this whole large expansive thing, there's like so much out there, right? Which is a beautiful thing, so having all of the options, that abundance, right? But of like really being able to hone in where you can have your foot placed in it, you know, and also have your other foot placed in your reality, and how you can incorporate that into, you know, walking practically. I feel like Saja Poems likes to say, walk a spiritual path practically, and that really speaks to me in this time, and how how the planets are lined up. And with Saturn here, just feels like a really powerful presence of like, how do I anchor that in on a day-to-day basis, and feel like that's been really present for some time. I feel like this has already been kind of lingering and trying to come in for a couple of years, for myself anyway, for sure. And with this soul growth, and these experiences that you may be starting to feel or understand, or these desires or these pulls towards something deeper, something wider, more vast, that feels like you could find resonance with, is also just like trying to assimilate in all of these brain centers, you know, of really kind of honing in on the belief systems, I think. I think another thing to point out is that Pisces is the end of the zodiac, right? We're coming to an ending here. These are the endings, you know, so finding closure, completions, you know. And in numerology, that we're in a 9 year, which also is that representation. So kind of like closing up things, you know, like closing up shop on things that aren't going to work anymore, you know, like thinking about outdated beliefs and outdated ways of living into this world that we're moving into, you know, kind of like really coming to some closure with them this year. And that could be on a lot of different levels, right? This could be physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, you know, all of those things could come through, right? So, we talked about Mars coming in and trining that, honoring what's underneath the surface. We talked about those desires, right? Those desires are coming up and really want to be seen and heard and moved towards, and to listening to that compass, allowing yourself to work with that compass and intuitively let yourself follow those things, especially if you haven't. Especially if you've tried to disregard those or feel like those don't feel practical, this is a really good time to try to navigate them and allow them to come in, to see what it could bring you, how actually following that brings a lot of practical things for you, right? I think that we also have this this kite happening. We talked about this in our full moon video, also the full moon in Leo, and how we have this energy with the Pleiadian star and Pluto playing here with the North Node. Okay, so we have a little bit of the top of the kite, this triangle, and then the Pleiadian and Pluto dropping down into also the South Node. Neptune is here also kind of right at the North Node, so we've got a little bit of that flavor resonating there. And again, to go back to those completions of like, we're just really being given the opportunity to look at how we have been living, how we have created structures around our lives, and routines and habits and beliefs, and with this idea that this was we were feeding ourselves something nourishing and healthy, but really was kind of this these structures in place that have left us feeling disconnected, that have left us out of this feeling of our own vastness, our own expansiveness, our own power, really. And getting back to kind of some of the innocence of it, letting Pluto come through and transform that. Pleiades is known for being highly gifted in the healing arts, right? And so really going through and kind of healing some of these wounds that we have maybe experienced at different points in our lives. And let's not to just mention the Virgo Pisces axis really offers a lot of healing energy also. And so allowing ourselves to kind of make a different choice, right? Choose a different avenue, choose a different way that we speak to ourselves, to other people, choosing a different way that we care for ourselves and the people that we love, choosing more compassion on a day-to-day basis. I was just talking to Jackie about that, of watching some of my mentors and teachers and how they are able to interact with what one might consider difficult personalities and such, and admiring that, and always striving to try to be more compassionate towards people and how we express ourselves in the world, because it's unique and it's beautiful, but sometimes it's hard when we have our own resistance and beliefs, and always trying to tune into a little bit more compassion and how we can help evolve our own selves, which makes an impact on all of us, right, in doing that work. Not getting caught up in too much of the escapism. We'll just say that. We could even relate that to the sirens of this disassociation of wanting to, because we feel probably already disconnected, is disconnecting ourselves more, and that can look a lot of things, drugs and alcohol, right? Any kind of substances that kind of tear us away from the reality. But I feel like also the escapism of just being present, where we get caught up in daydreams, where we get caught up in fantasies, where we aren't living right now and experiencing the sensitivities that are all around us, which can be overwhelming. I don't want to deny the fact that feeling all of those things doesn't create a rise of different feelings, or maybe feeling overwhelmed even. But there's so much information out there, free, and so many teachers and so many people that are offering things that can help you work through and manage some of these heightened sensitivities and heightened feelings, right? I think I will get into this a little bit about the white sage. There's a connection with that, as well as the Gutakola. But the white sage, again, Sajapamba's references that in his teachings that a Lakota man was talking about the purification process, right? We often smudge white sage is used often a lot for smudging things in the thought of purifying ourselves for these spiritual experiences. And he spoke with a Lakota man that reflected it back in the sense that it wasn't to purify us, it was to remind us that we were already pure. And that, I think, hit both of us, right? Like a ton of bricks when we said that. and thought that was so beautiful because it's the truth. You know, we are these pure beings, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think you have something to speak about on that.
So, probably two things. The first, playing off of what you just said, is when we, when we're in the womb, we are sage-like. And then when the mind comes on, there is this split that happens, first of all. And then, we were born to 8 is where this, we develop these set of belief systems that are meant to keep us safe. They're learned, inherited, absorbed, all sorts of different ways we can acquire them. But, along the way, we have these certain spiritual figures where we believe, or groups, which is what they believe. Excuse me, getting a little tongue-tied there. But it's called group consciousness, and it's a political science and social science phenomenon in which members of a social group identify or have the identification that impacts the decisions that they make. So we, or a group, you could look at it like they had created Jesus. This is going to maybe rub a little bit, but when we look at Jesus as being outside of ourselves, when, this pure man, ever so forgiving, but Jesus is actually all inside of us. The Holy Spirit is inside of us. We have, all of us inside of us have the compassion of, Mother Mary. But it's when...
capable of it.
Yeah,
right,
but when we judge, it's when we put judgment on one side of it or the other is where this, conflict, so to speak, happens. And group consciousness isn't just, religious. We do it with holidays. Valentine's Day, it's here.
Wink, wink.
Special events and, rituals, so to speak, where we hold on to these things that groups and very large groups of us have created. So, going back to kind of what Ashley was talking about is this choosing. Well, we were on the white sage, but I wanted to go back a little bit further when you're talking about picking, maybe like choosing the desires or picking, or somewhere along the way. The small intestine is, it's where we get our nutrients. Yes.
Right? Yeah.
So like choosing the difference.
Pisces is connected to the small intestine too, just to clarify here.
So when we have these desires, and yes, there will be sirens and distractions, you're tuning into yourself and you're choosing differently. The other thing to that is the small intestine is like sorting. So you're sorting through what maybe some spiritual practices don't necessarily align. Body talk, for example, isn't for everyone. Or maybe I'll pick a little bit more of a known one. Reiki isn't for everyone, right? But the confusion comes, like you're mentioning, when we don't listen, which sorting is listening, which is really tuning into this part of our body that knows. The blueprint is within us, just like universal consciousness is within us.
Yes. I love that.
Yes.
Well, and that listening too is like, okay, so are we going to listen to the desire to move towards something more expansive? Are we going to listen to the desires that are calling that might seem unusual or out of character, Can we sort through and decide that we can use the discernment to make a good choice for ourselves by following our intuition and listening, really actually listening to ourselves for once, instead of listening to what's on outside of us. You know, that feels like the reflective part for me, right? Like the consciousness is already inside of you. You know, like you actually always know where you're going, whether you can mentally conceptualize that or not, you know. And so I love that. I love the thought of how those things really kind of blended together.
Yeah.
There. So I feel like that also, I feel like with that sorting and that listening to and the sage, there is like, I have a feeling, especially for some of us that are already kind of attuned to these sensitivities, is recognizing what isn't yours also, and that there is a kind of like realm around collective suffering right now, and that some of us are helping process some of those things also. And so also recognizing when you are feeling emotions rise up, when we are feeling a little bit more emotional or sensitive, one, allowing those emotions to be seen and felt, honoring yourself in these emotional stages instead of resisting them always, but especially during this time. And also you can use the white sage, you know, that it is going to purify parts around you, you know, and help you kind of move through the things that actually don't belong to you, you know, that you can take on what you feel like you're capable of and allow the rest to kind of be transmuted back up into a different energy form. Mm-hmm. So I think the last part was the tarot connections here. I didn't know if you wanted to talk about that.
It's the moon. Who knows if it focused? So the moon. We'll just kind of do some of the additional keys here. You know, Pisces, Neptune, the chakras, 2nd and the 9th. Not much familiar with the 9th. We've got some gemstones: Moonstone, labradorite, opal, blue star sapphire, lodolite, kyanite, tangerine quartz, carnelian, orange kyanite, and gothite. Anyways, Moonstone. We have shameless plug. One of our teas. It's got some moonstone in it.
Yes, it does. Our raspberry leaf, it's wild. We harvested it wild in the Black Hills last summer. Still have some left.
Symbols: crescent moon, triple crescent. Do you know what a triple crescent is?
I don't.
I'll have to look that up later. Triple goddess, Triquetra, nonogram, and Hecate's wheel.
Nice.
Are some additional keys of the moon in the tarot: sensitivities, dreams, imagination, psychic powers.
Absolutely, and that all speaks to Neptune, Pisces, all of that energy, and that's really present. And so just keep listening to the things that are coming in. You're not crazy. I mean, you might be crazy. Who am I to say? I might be crazy.
Just don't judge it. Okay?
See? Sort through it.
Sort through it. It's okay.
Use discernment.
Small intestine. Keywords here.
Yeah. If you, where's your Pisces in your chart, you know? Where's this affecting you? I wonder. Feel free to drop a comment. I'm happy to reply, and maybe give some feedback if you know where Pisces is at in your chart. But otherwise, I think that's all for now. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like, subscribe.
Ding that notification bell.